And thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. I am going to start the webinar right now, and I am actually going to screen share my screen. Are you able to see? Okay, thank you. So this is our first program of the semester that is specifically created for parents and families. It's titled the Real Talk series because the purpose of it is for you to have a place where you can share your ideas, be able to be in community with other parents, and know that there are people like you that may also have the same concerns. So let's see, hopefully this works. Okay. So our agenda for today is the following. So I am going to introduce the office. Some of you may have already heard this from orientation. For some of you, this may be brand new information. I'm also going to go over some of the programs and the resources that I am trying to have for you this semester and beyond. I want you to be able to maximize your user experience through the William Patterson Family Portal. And then once we have discussed all those, then we're going to start our WP Parent Panel. We're going to be able to have, I have a set of questions kind of like to get us going with a conversation, but in the chat, you're able to put any questions you may want to ask, or if you want to raise your hand, and then unmute yourself, then that will be fine, just so that we're respectful of the time and everyone speaking. During, as I'm presenting the first portion of the program, within the slides, you're going to see a little QR code that said "Scan Me" to sign in. So if you could please scan the QR code and complete the sign-in form, I would really appreciate it. That way I can keep track of everyone that is here today. And then that will also give me the opportunity to then send you a survey at the end of the program. That way you could tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like, what was something new that you learned, and what other programming you would like to see for me to create for you. We're also going to drop the link to the sign-in sheet in the chat. So you could either scan the code or just click on the link. So why was the Office of Parent and Family Relations created? Well, it was established earlier this year because we felt as a university that there is a need to make sure that parents are connected and know what's going on within the campus community. And one of the reasons as to why that's important is because when we work together, parents, families, the university community, administrators, staff, faculty, it drives students to persist, as well as it drives for them to like stay in school, with the ultimate goal that they're going to be successful and graduate from William Patterson University. There isn't anything more exciting for us as administrators than see all of our students walk across the stage at the Prudential Center, because then we know that we did what we were able to do and that our students were successful. And then when we're able to see them also kind of like see the fruits of your labor during graduation and beyond, that's even more of an added bonus. But if we don't have your support or your collaboration, then like these things are not possible. The office is also your primary point of contact for any concerns that you may have for in regards to your student, how they're doing in class, of course, with whatever FERPA permits us, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. anything like if you're concerned that your student is not transitioning well, if you're a first year student or a transfer student, I will be able to kind of like give you the resources to kind of like share with them in order to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're seeking out the resources on campus in order to be able to succeed and be able to transition a lot better. And if I do not know how to help you, then I have wonderful colleagues, some of them who are here tonight, who will be able to point you into and steer you into the right direction. So the goal of the office is also to increase parent and family involvement and engagement. And what do I mean by that? Well, there may be opportunities like this one where you could be a panelist, right? And you'll be able to help other parents like you to help their students succeed or transition. We do know that these are difficult times, and when you have a village behind you that is able to support you, then your end results are a lot greater. My office is your conduit to any information related to the university. So my main goal is to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. So if there was an email that was sent, well, a general email, right, that was sent to your student from XYZ office, then I want you to know about that, because I want you to be able to have these conversations with your student. Hey, did you know that this is going on campus? Or do you know that this is who you could reach out to for XYZ concern? Something else is like if, let's say, your student is getting financial aid, right? But they haven't completed their financial aid requirements. I want you to know that if an email went out from the financial aid office or from Student Enrollment Services, in regards to that, like I want you to know that these type of conversations are being had with students, and that you need to also have those conversations with them just to make sure that they're doing everything that they were supposed to do. And if they have already done them, then you could be a little bit more reassured that your student is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Another thing is my office is going to enable you the understanding of university policy and procedures. Everything is not the same from high school. There's some different. The way that we communicate with parents, it's a lot different than how your high school teachers communicated with you, because they are privacy regulations that we have to follow them. And one of them is FERPA. So once your child is in college, then we have to make sure that we are protecting their privacy. And students could give you access to be able to see their grades and be able to kind of like know what's going on with them, their enrollment and things like that. But it's up to them if they want you to see it. They could give you access to all of their records, or they could give you access to certain records, but being cognizant that some records may be tied into others. So we'll be able to provide you, like tools, and resources like how to talk to your student to be able to give you those access, because when they go to college and they turn 18, they're like, well, I'm already grown and I could do whatever I want to do, right? But when you are paying the bill and you're trying to help them, then having those permissions are very important and critical. And last, building relationships, one-on-one relationships with you. Because I'm here to support you, I want you to be able to come to me with anything that you may need. And with whatever is in my limitations, then I'll be able to help you and steer you into the right direction to make sure that you're getting the answers that you need. And then we could just partner up to be able to create more programs for parents, where you're going to be able to be like a parent volunteer. So then talking about programs and resources. So our first program actually was kicked off during orientation. that was with family orientation. So we were able to provide you an array of presentations of different resources on campus, from academic sessions to talks about financial aid and things like that. And when we completed orientation, then I sent out a survey asking you, like, for your feedback, because your feedback is very important, so that I am able to then enhance future orientation programming to make sure that we are providing you with the information that you want. Then our second program is the one that we have kicked off today, the Real Talk series. And this is actually your space to be able to kind of like be in community with everyone, and be able to ask questions and be able to get the real answers, right? It's a little bit more of a laid back presentation. Is not like your typical presentation that you had during orientation. But at least in this type of environment, I want you to feel like you're part of the Williams-Patterson community. So today we kick off the first one. Our second one is actually going to be on October 11th, and that one is going to be co-hosted by the Director of Financial Aid, and is going to be simplifying FAFSA. There is a lot of changes that are happening to the 24-25 FAFSA, so I want you to be the first to know what's going to change and be able to have kind of like the ins of how these changes would apply to you. And even if you may not be eligible to for financial aid, or you may think that you're not eligible for financial aid, it's always important to fill out the FAFSA, because with these changes that are coming up to the FAFSA for the 24-25 aid year, there are more families that are going to be even more, that are going to be able to benefit from their eligibility. And then the last program that I'm hoping that you could benefit from is Homecoming and Family Day. And this is more when we could just be all in community with each other. We do have things planned for the whole family. There's going to be a student talent showcase. So if you know any students that want to showcase their talent, please let me know, because we're also going to pay them. So that's a really good incentive. So what about like resources? So I want to be able to provide you conversation starters, like I said before. We also included like conversation starters in the program during orientation, but I do want you to kind of like be able to have honest conversations with your students, although they may be difficult sometimes, because they are important, especially when we are trying to like establish like boundaries, and who's going to do this and who is going to do that. That way you have better communication with your student. I'm also going to be able to provide you guides and checklists. We first started off with the post-orientation checklist. And it's still available because there are still things that students are trying to accomplish, although the semester is already into full swing. And then there's also like books and publications that there are. So I don't know if you're able to see me, but I have the College Ready Expert Advice for Parents to Simplify the College Transition. And this is actually a guide that was created by higher ed professionals across the nation that specifically work with parents and families. So this is a good resource to have in order to be able to help your student transition. And also the iConnected Parent is a good book because it gives you the good and the bad of communicating with your student in the age of technology. And then last, one of the wonderful resources that we have is the Williams-Patterson Family Portal, which you already all use. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to sign up for this webinar. but I want to make sure that you are maximizing your experience. So if you haven't already done so, make sure that you set your user profile. And in a little bit, I'll give you kind of like a quick overview of what that looks like. And in your profile, you could set your like, you could add a picture to it. You could set your communication preferences, your newsletter preferences. So most of you should be getting your newsletter bi-weekly, but if you want to get it on a weekly basis, you're able to set that. If you want to get it on a monthly basis, you're able to set that as well. Because remember, this portal is based on your experience. That's why there's also an onboarding survey. If you haven't completed it yet, it's important that you do, because then that tells me your interests. That tells me what kind of communities you want to be in. And then that's how you will be able to get your information. The other thing is there is a calendar. In the calendar, there's different events that I post both for you and your student. And you're also able to download the calendar to your own calendar. And based on the content of the portal, like, you could favorite post, you could also share the post with your student by just, and it's just a click away by sharing. So then let me show you the portal real quick. Let me see. This is where technology gets a little tricky, right? All right. So this is what the portal looks like. And on here, you have your news feed, and it looks like your Facebook kind of news feed. These are advertisements, and they're all clickable. So if there's additional information that we want you to know, then you could click on here and it'll bring you directly to the page. Then you have like the communities that you could join. There's a lot of different communities. I'm actually in all of them because I want to know everything that's going on. But then you're also able to join different communities. We have created a Spanish-speaking community so that there is information that is shared in Spanish language for our Spanish-speaking families. And then you have your calendar where you're able to export the information by clicking on here. Then on the bottom, you're able to view your favorite post, discover more communities. So if you click on there, you'll be able to see other communities that you may be able to join. And again, all of the information that is shared on here is based on your interests. Then you have this little bell, which is like all the announcements that have gone out since the inception of the portal, or since you became a user of the portal. So this is always good, a resource for you to always go back to in case you miss like important information from like the president or the vice president for student development. And then you're able to set your preferences by clicking this little person icon. You could edit your profile or edit your notification preferences. So with that, I'm going to go back to my other screen. So with that, that concludes the portion of my portion of the program. So I am always welcoming any feedback that you may have. If there's like anything that you will want to see, please let me know how we could collaborate with each other. That way, I'm able to create those programs for you. So with that, we're going to start our move this up here, with our the repeat parent panel. And like I said before, I have already a set of questions that that way to get the conversation started. And then if you have any questions, then you could always either unmute yourself, ask the question, raise your hand, or put them in the chat. So with us tonight, we have, if this works, yeah. So with us tonight, we have Vince Budessa, who is the parent of a second-year William Patterson student. We also have Joanna Torres, who is the Director of Student Enrollment Services, Martin Grish, who is the Associate Dean of the College of Business, Sylvia Barrera, who is the Coordinator of the Office of Veteran and Military Affairs, and Erin Monahan, who's the William Patterson women's basketball coach. So I am going to stop sharing so that we could view everyone a lot better. And we're going to start with our first question. So, thinking about the college transition, how was it for you as a parent to see your child embark on a new journey? Do you want to help them all the time, or did you offer help when needed or asked? So whoever wants to take the first question.
I'd be happy to get started if that's okay. So my two oldest daughters are graduates from William Patterson, one graduated in 2020 and the other one just this year. And I would say overall, it was exciting to see them go off to college. It was also probably the first time in their lives that I didn't know exactly what they were doing. So that was a little unsettling at times, but overall, it was a really good experience. And I tried to only get involved when they asked me for help. That they were pretty well prepared and they did a good job navigating everything. So I tried to, not get too involved. But something that has come up earlier already, the FERPA waiver, so that you have access to your students' records. It's something that I would highly recommend, and actually to do it as soon as possible. For one, you don't have to think about it anymore then. But also, if there ever were an issue that maybe the student does not want to know about, at that point, they probably don't want to send that FERPA waiver. So if you have not done that yet, that's something that I would recommend to do as soon as possible.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Julia Wardell. My daughter's a first-year student. She was excited to go, and it was exciting for my husband and I, since we're alumni from William Patterson. So she's going there, and it was kind of like my plan is to let her go. But I've been hearing from her more now than I have before. So she's reaching out more, and I try to be there as best I can. But, just trying to get her to get a little bit more adjusted to the school year. So I thought I was going to not hear from her because she said she wanted to leave, but I think I hear from her at least twice a day.
Yeah, for me, being that I work at the institution and I work at a one-stop where all questions come to my office, and I tend to kind of handhold my students through all questions, it was kind of hard for me knowing where to stop and kind of allow my daughter to kind of ask questions on her own. So I really already knew the services that the university kind of offered students. So with this new resources that you have as parents now, it is a really good opportunity just to know what resources are on campus. Because if you could just guide your student to where they need to be or where to go, or even if you don't know, and you could just ask Mrs. Reyes and just say, hey, Eva, this is a question that my daughter has, or this is something that my daughter's kind of going through. Is there kind of like a person or a point or a department that maybe she should be speaking with, or he should be speaking with? And then just knowing where to point the student, because they don't always know where to go. And while the university is small in the sense that, and I'm saying it's small in the sense that we all know our students. And yes, believe it or not, we all know our students because we always hand them off to each other. And once they get to our offices, we know exactly who we're talking to, and we know exactly the students that we're working with. And see if there's somebody in this office that maybe you can talk to about this problem, and see what guidance or how they can help support you. And then let them ask, and let them start asking their own questions, because sometimes they're just afraid to put their foot in the door to ask the question because they're intimidated, right? Because our university is big, but once they get into those areas, we're really small because we really talk, we're very friendly and we're approachable. And students kind of like, it's just like in that first experience and just walking in through that door, once they get to see like, we're really friendly people, that we are just like you. We really are. And it's just kind of like breaking that barrier. And then once they feel comfortable, that's it. And my daughter, my little one, kind of had a little bit more of that. She would always come to have lunch at my office. And it wasn't just for a free lunch. She would just come in and sit with me all the time. And I'm like, why don't you go out? Go out with your friends. Like, don't you have places to go? And it's just because she just felt comfortable with me. And that only lasted 2 weeks. Then I never saw her again. Then I knew that she had found her people and she was out and about. But so that's my advice.
All right. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to add that to Joanna. My son attended William Patterson as well. And as a member of the staff, it's hard to, keep the control on him. Like, you did this, you did that. Did you contact this? It's hard to control. But I think in some way we have to let them go. Now they are considered adults. They had to, find their ways. But, that connection that we have, and as parents that you have now with this office, is great. So in that way, you are connected to William Patterson. You know what is going on at William Patterson, and not necessarily like bugging your son or daughter about it. You are, with knowledge. And then you can, start in conversations with your son or daughter saying, hey, do you know about homecoming? Are you planning to attend? Are you doing this? And you're doing that? So it's, a great, icebreaker to, continue the communication and to be, alert of what is going on in your daughter or son's life.
Yes.
I have 3 children. My daughter graduated in 22. She's a master's student now. She's a part of the softball team. My son is a senior on the men's basketball team, and my youngest is a junior. And I agree totally that as a parent, believe me, I speak to Joanna a lot, and I've used them in the 6 years that I've been a parent, but I've also been at William Patterson for 32 years. I myself have been there since 86 as a student myself. And I agree with the FERPA because I've experienced that in the past. So that's real important to make sure that you make sure your son or daughter. And I speak to them as a mom, and I don't do it for them. I don't make the calls for them. I tell them who they have to email or who they have to go talk to. And they go down to student enrollment services, or you have to kind of have them make the mistakes, and figure out, and if it be advisement or figure out how to financial aid or pay a bill. But I think this forum and this website is incredible to have. And for us, because we also have kids, and our kids have made mistakes. We've made mistakes in reference to not paying bills on time or other things. But there's people out there to help, and the directors, but also us as parents too.
So I'm going to move on to the next question. Is there something that you wish you knew before your son or daughter went to college that you know now or after they graduated?
The one thing that comes to my mind is financial aid, and we have some experts here who can speak more to that. I felt well prepared. I done our own taxes for years. I think I'm relatively savvy that way, but I still find it complicated to navigate the process. There's a lot, and small differences with information that gets submitted can have a big impact. There's certain deadlines that are important. So I would definitely recommend, if you're not sure about something, to ask questions, because it is important to get that right so that your student gets the best financial aid package possible.
Anyone else? Okay. So I know that some of you have touched upon this, but how did you encourage your son or daughter to use their own voice and advocate for themselves?
I can go on that a little bit. My first is very independent. So there was no part of me making a call for her or doing anything, as an employee or a parent. And then I think that just piggybacked my second and my third. I think they realize they're 18 and they realize that they have to try to figure this out for themselves. And I think it also helped them in learning their professors or, trying to figure out other things. And, talk to their coaches or talk to other people that are directly involved in their academic careers. And like I said, they just kind of did it on their own.
Eva, may I jump back to the previous question?
Yes.
So I don't have anything per se, and I don't know it all. Please don't think that. I've just been in higher ed for a long time. And I see my friends grow through it, and I see my students grow through it. And sometimes you hear students are like, I graduated, I have a degree, and I can't land my job. And it's all about the process. And it's all about what you do, right? And it's not all about your studies and putting your face in the book and getting a 4.0 or getting those high grades. It's also about getting that work experience. So in that junior year and in that senior year, it's also about building that work experience and getting that work-life maturity that oftentimes students don't always have. And when they enter the workplace, and you know what I'm talking about, that work maturity, it's different, right? That experience of you're working with a supervisor and that maturity level of that work ethic that you have to learn to develop as a young adult. That is something that is obtained through internships. That is something that is obtained through some sort of externship, federal work study jobs, some sort of work program that you can also obtain through career services through the university. Finding that niche or finding that time to be able to integrate that along with your studies and being able to integrate that into part of your programming as you're building your professional career. It is not just about the education. I can tell you, I have 2 daughters. And I think that I have guided them the right paths. And they have been very successful in obtaining very high earning wages straight out of college. I am not worried about them. They have their apartments. They're ages 24 and 27, and they are making very reasonable, very, very nice incomes. One of them has their master's degree, earned their MBA here at William Patterson, and the other one has a biology degree, and they work in with drug research for Regeneron in New York, which is one of the companies that are very, it's a very reputable company. So I think that kind of helped them very much so in their careers. So it's not just about the education and getting the degree, but it is also that professional maturity integrating in with that. And that is one of the advices that I can offer you, as that I have seen throughout in this career process that I've gone through with children, not just my own.
So what I've tried to do is, in order to be able to help your student, like kind of steer them to finding like networking and finding internships, like in the calendar through the portal, I have listed as many, and I'm constantly checking different calendars around campus, from academics to like what career development is doing, what the advisement center is doing, what even athletics is doing. So I've spent quite a little bit of time researching everything that's going on campus so that it's on your fingertips, so that you're able to share these resources with your student. So there is like a few like student employment webinars that are coming up. There are networking events. There's like a marketing and public relations networking event that is going on in a few weeks. So make sure that you're always like looking at the calendar and let your student know, although they may be a freshman, like it may be early, it doesn't matter. As long as they start to put your foot out there, to know that there are all these other resources available to them, then the better we are setting them up for success. And while we are on the subject of resources, and I know Mr. Budessa kind of like touched upon this a little bit earlier today before everyone joined into the meeting, what campus resources were most helpful for your son or daughter?
Well, I don't know if it's called a resource or not, but at dinner tonight, I asked my son, who's a sophomore, what was the best thing his freshman year? And he said, willpower. And a lot of the faculty here know the program, and it's really an introduction to William Paterson. He said to me, you know what, I got to meet so many people and got to learn about all the resources within the university. And, I made friends, and that was one of the best parts of my freshman year. So I think that course alone, and I ask someone else on this panel to describe more about it, because everything was just so over the top that I heard, but maybe someone else could tell a little bit more about what willpower is all about.
Yes. So both Sylvia and I have taught willpower, and willpower is basically your introductory course to the university and to the collegiate experience. Within willpower, we teach students how to advocate for themselves, how to seek out resources, different resources on campus, how to get involved in campus, because it's not everything is, like Joanna said, is not all about academics. It's about really building your knowledge, your world knowledge. We're a liberal arts institution, so we want to make sure that the students are very well-rounded with everything that's going on around them, like in the world too. We teach about, or when I taught willpower, I don't teach willpower anymore, because it's actually the advisors that teach willpower now. And the reason why the advisors teach willpower now is because they are the direct link to academic resources for students. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time teaching willpower. I got to connect with students from start to finish. previously to me being the director of parent and family relations, I actually worked with Joanna as the associate director of student enrollment services. So I used to do financial aid consultations for new incoming families. So seeing those families and being able to kind of like provide them resources from the beginning. I know I had one family at one point that came to see me, and I knew that there were additional resources based on the conversations that I was having with them, as far as like accessibility resources that I was able to recommend, and tell them, you know, although your child, because he had an IEP, although your child has an IEP and he may want to kind of like do things differently in college, the resources that the Accessibility Resource Center is able to offer a student, as far as like hiring someone to take notes for them, or giving them extra time for a test, are very, very valuable. So and then so that was many years ago. And then 2 years ago, that student graduated, and I couldn't go to commencement that year because I had COVID, I think. But as that student was walking across the stage, their parent was emailing me. So you're having your moment with your student walking across the stage, but then you're emailing me and telling me how the resources that we were able to provide and the interactions that we were able to have with the student and the family were so integral to the student's success. It's a testament to the work that we're doing at William Patterson as a community. So I don't know if there's anything else that Sylvia will want to add as far as willpower.
Yeah, no, you mentioned, everything that willpower is, definitely is also a way to networking for the students, because during that sections, we introduce, students with different resources. We introduce them with sometimes the speakers that come to William Patterson, and they know they create friendships that can last, for their academic time here at William Patterson. So I'm glad to hear that, students are enjoying and see the importance of willpower.
Yes. So I know that Joanna started to touch a little bit on this, but for those of you that have alumni children, how did William Patterson prepare your son or daughter for life after college? Are they employed now? And if so, what type of job do they currently have?
Eva, you froze.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My internet is a little bit unstable because my connection is on the other side of the house. But I'll think about that next time.
Because Leon is playing video games.
No, no. Actually, he went out for a walk. So the question again is, for those with alumni children, how did William Patterson prepare your son or daughter for life after college? Are they employed now? If so, what type of job do they currently have?
Well, my son graduated last year. He graduated, and the actuary science was the only one in that major that graduated last year. And it went that well that they offer him unemployment right there. So as, mentioned before by Joanna, the networking that you do, the resources that you have, it can lead you to unemployment, that he's doing what he studied for, he's doing what he likes, and he's, getting a stable job with, good salary, health insurance, and, he move out. But, that's life. life. You see them grow up, you're witnessing how, grow up. And I'm so helpful and so thankful for William Patterson to help them, do that, give them the resources to be self-sufficient, to give them the resources to apply for the job that he was looking for. So definitely tell your children and, your son and daughters that's the resources are available. Or Career Development Center is great. They help you with, creating your resume, making sure it's in a professional manner, helping you with the LinkedIn accounts, all the new resources that are, in the internet to look for jobs. So they are even with, professional photographs for the LinkedIn accounts. So little things like that, students don't know how, they can get to it, but they are, in their hands at William Patterson. So definitely, I see it personally with my son. I hope all of your son and daughters use them.
My daughter is still in school. She did graduate, but she's doing her master's. But and you mentioned the Career Development Center, but and also actually going back to the previous question, the experience at William Patterson, the benefit was the career fair. My daughter was offered a job right there at the career fair. She showed up dressed up with her resume in hand. She didn't take it, and she definitely weighed the options, but she now has that connection. So that is definitely, and I've heard before of a bunch of my athletes going there. And I mean, we have hundreds of people that come and represent their jobs and, looking for employees. So that is something. And the other thing is, and just going back, like I said, to that previous question, I think my children have benefited from jobs on campus. And again, just being in the right spot at the right time, meeting people, obviously making some money, but putting themselves out there is, again, piggybacking on the experience. And the other thing that they've benefited from is the Health and Wellness Center. You just need someone to talk to. You just need someone to talk to that, they don't want to come to me because I'm there every day and all that. We have an excellent Health and Wellness Center, and they're on campus, right on campus, and available.
So we're actually going to have in November a health and wellness webinar, part of the Real Talk series, because I feel, or we feel, it's helpful for you to kind of be attuned with your own mental health and wellness so that you're able to help your students also recognize if they need assistance from the counseling health and wellness. So be on the lookout for that. And as we start to wrap up our evening, I want to make sure that I have some time for questions. Any last minute advice that you could give the parents here tonight?
I also wanted to say that connection with professor is very important. Communication with professor is, something that students should look for. When my son entered, he was like, in his mind, I'm going to be a physical therapist. He wants to go, through the physical therapy program. But when he started taking the classes, he realized that it wasn't for him. It was just, a matter of talking with one of his math professors and say, like, hey, do you think about actuary? I see that you're good in math. And he started talking about him, and he changed, in his first year of majors. Those little connections sometimes can make big changes in the life of the children. So that connection with professors, if you are absent for any reason, when you're late for an assignment, things like that, that communication is very important to be successful.
So I was about to say that with my daughter, and I know I gloated enough, but I'm going to say it. So the one of the things that led Sierra to that her work now was because she did start the pre-physical therapy program, and then through her work and through talking with professors, she learned that there was research happening on campus, and some of the professors were actively doing work that where she learned from the professors how to do samples and sampling and actually dosing and all of this work and knowledge she was able to put into resumes, which then helped her get and land these jobs that have to do with drug research And that is what's actually landed her these high paying jobs. So when talking to these professors, they're guiding the students and they're telling them, hey, this is going to pay this is going to pay that. And this is where you should kind of like look into. And those connections are the ones that are the most valuable. So those are the things that they need to.
Wellness walks. I think there's a wellness walk in a couple weeks. Get involved. Go out there. Go to these events. You can win prizes. They work hard to get these prizes in, but it's building your spirit for your school, and it's a positive thing in the long run of trying to feel out where you can fit in.
Yes. All right. So. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Do any of you have any additional questions for our panelists? And you could just unmute yourself and just ask. Or if there's like any comments that you want to share, that's fine too.
Any questions in Spanish? We can answer those as well.
Yes.
Preguntas en español también.
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, okay. So someone is asking, where do we see grades? So because of FERPA regulations, like I said before, and some of the panelists said, we have to protect the student's privacy. So the student themselves have to complete the FERPA authorization form, and they have to authorize if they want to give you access to academic records, conduct records, financial aid records, and billing and payment records. So at that point, they could give you access to everything, or they could just give you access to some things. If they do give you access to the academic records, they're going to assign you a 4-digit PIN. Whenever you call the university, whenever you email the university, or whenever you go in person, they're going to ask you for that FERPA PIN. And then at that point, we'll be able to disclose any information that the student has authorized. So what happens when the willpower advisor quits? Then they will be assigned another.
Eva, you were frozen. You may want to turn off your camera for a minute.
Okay, let's see.
You got to the.
Yeah, I'm freezing again. Jonna, do you want to go over the FERPA?
So. Because grades and academics is a federal privacy and it's protected information, we are not allowed to provide that information unless the student authorizes us to verbally give you that information. So you will not have your own access to look at it on a database unless, unfortunately, if the student gives you direct information on their WP Connect account. If you do call and contact and speak with one of the representatives, let's say that if you contact a registrar's office, or if you contact my office, which I'm the Office of Student Enrollment Services, we would be able to view it and let you know how they did. And in terms of, we're going to verify who we're discussing the account with. We're going to verify your name and we're going to verify the information, but we will not be able to verify or give you any document, unfortunately, just because it's a federal privacy. So that was the one question about grades. What happens when the willpower advisor quits? Well, typically there are two, and I don't know if this has changed, Eva, but typically there were two willpower advice. Like one was a willpower advisor, but there was always like an assistant that would be working in the room. However, when that typically doesn't happen, what happens is that typically it might be that the advisor might be having some sort of a medical leave or something like that, because that's an academic advisor who's usually responsibilities. So if that does happen, they will be replaced with another academic advisor. In the meantime, they don't just not appear in class. So there usually is a replacement because there is a caseload that typically needs to be taken over. And then typically that announcement happens right before the one advisor leaves to make it like a seamless transition. So if they sign the FERPA, then we can call to get the insights. Yes, you can call to get the insights if there is a FERPA release authorization for academics.
There is, sorry,
Go ahead.
there's another question that says, how do I know if everything is okay with my daughter's account?
Yes. So it depends on what you're talking about the account. So an account can mean many things. So do you mean the account with billing and payments and financial aid? Then you would contact Student Enrollment Services. Eva put our phone number in the chat, and that's my office. We are kind of like what you would like we're kind of like a one-stop service. And then if we don't know the answer, then we'll kind of guide you where you need to go. But it depends. Like if you're talking about an account, like a meal plan account, then that's not us. That would be hospitality and residence life. So it just depends on what you mean by an account. But generally, most of the questions can be answered in Student Enrollment Services. And let's see. Who actually checks in on freshmen to make sure they're okay? Well, that would be typically their advisor and their WP 101. That's typically their checkpoint is their WP 101 person. And their academic advisor is typically the one who's navigating them. However, if they're in housing, then they have an RA who's also responsible for the and also there's a graduate resident director that is also responsible. So it depends on what that student, where they're living and in what area or what spaces that check-in is taking place. Okay, let's see. What other questions? I'm scrolling up because I see a few.
So I'm trying to put as much information I can in the chat.
Okay.
And then I answered, my internet is really unstable right now. But for if you want to, if something is going on with your student and you're concerned about their well-being, their willpower instructor could always check in on them, but you could always contact campus police and they could do a wellness check on them if they are living on campus.
And yes, to find out about the person that takes notes for these a student that has the IEP. Yes, the Accessibility Resource Center, what they call is also known as ARC on campus, and Eva posted that information on there. And
so only
I think
for were there any freshman only events after moving? It was just welcome day. That was the only thing, and then they get integrated into everything else. Okay. Well, if you have additional questions, you could always email me and I'll make sure that I provide you the information. I could always send a list of the questions that were asked to everyone that joined tonight. That way everyone could have the phone number and email addresses to the resources that we shared. But in the sake of time, and I think we did really well by keeping everything within the hour. If there's any additional feedback you want to provide me, if there's any other programs that you want to see, and that way you could share them with me. I'm going to send you a survey when we are done, and then on there you can provide me your feedback. And once you complete the survey,
You froze again a
I
little bit.
froze.
You were gonna send a survey.
I'm going to send the survey so that you can provide me with any feedback. And that's going to put you in the running to win a prize. So that's a little incentive.
And I do want to make a mention to Daisy and to others and other parents on here. The part of the WP 101 programs is that students within that program, they tend to be put in of, so they could see each other in other similar classes. So they're going to be seeing the same faces in that WP 101 that they're going to be seeing in other classes. So what's happening is some students don't show the WP 101 because it's a 0 credit class. And they're not really getting credits for it. And then some of them, they don't want to go to that class because they just figured, I'm not getting credit for it. And they're missing out on a lot of good information. So I highly recommend that they show up to WP 101. It's fun. It's fun. It's really informational, and they can get a lot out of it.
So when I taught the last class that I taught for Willpower, they were nursing students, and given they are a little bit more privileged because they are part of a cohort. But I saw all of them together walking across the stage during commencement. I have a picture with them actually during commencement. So the people that they meet during Willpower, these are the people that they are building long-lasting relationships with, even beyond graduation. So encourage your student to get involved in campus with all the different events or the different organizations provided by Campus Activities, Service, and Leadership. Make sure that they're talking to their Willpower advisor, because then their Willpower advisor will be able to connect them to the right resources. Make sure that they're making friends and things like that. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I look forward to seeing you during our next event on October 11th, where we'll talk about simplifying FAFSA. Thank you. Have a good night.